Catching up with Sarah and Ginny, fueled by laughter and insights aplenty. Curiosity, connection, and learning that sticks. Real talk, real lives with practical tips. Welcome to Catching Up with Sarah and Ginny. Come on in.
Hello, Mr. McPartlin, and how are you?
I'm living my best life, thanks, Ginny. You?
Yeah, and you've got, I mean, people probably can't see, but you have got fairy lights behind you. You've got to tell me why, where, how?
Do you know, we have fairy lights everywhere, Ginny. Do you know what's a good question? I don't like the big light. You know, like when you're at home, I hate the big light on. And the penny dropped a couple of years ago that I was sat in my office. Penny dropped that I don't like being in office on my own. So now I sit opposite my deputy, who I probably drive absolutely mad all day, every day. So we did that. But then we bought lamps, which you don't tend to buy lamps for schools, just to make it feel a little bit nicer. We got some sofas and things like that. Where fairy lights would make all the difference. So now we have fairy lights, not everywhere, but in lots of our little meeting rooms. You know, this one where I'm in now is we call the snug. You know, next door, our room is very similar thing. We just want the spaces to feel warm, welcoming, nice. You know, I think is it the Danish or Scandinavian word hygge?
Yes.
Hygge, which is that warm, cozy feeling, and that's what we want. You know, if you're having an important meeting or a serious discussion or something, you know, I think it's always going to land better, work better in an environment where it just feels a bit softer and warmer and welcoming. You know, I think we've probably all been to NHS meeting rooms or waiting rooms, you know, where somebody's having a serious conversation with you and it's very sterile, it's bleak and it's miserable, which is not really what you want when maybe you're a bit nervous, a bit stressed and whatever. So we've got that across the school. You know, I think I've just showed you about outside. We've got festoon lighting out here. We just like to think about the feel of the room. And we often start with, how would you do it if it was at home? You know, I think I would do it bit like this at home, and I want it to feel like that. We all spend enough time at work, so there's lots of different reasons why we do it, but I just think I want places to be a nice environment to work, play, learn, or whatever. That was a really snappy answer, wasn't it, Ginny?
Really snappy, direct,
so short and concise. I think we're both on the same page in there. We don't really do short and concise.
No. But you know what? And actually, I'm so pleased I kind of just asked that question out of nowhere, because I've just got a new office in one of my schools, and quelle surprise, I have got fairy lights everywhere. I never have. Oh, it's like a Peter Kay sketch. Oh, we never have the main light on. We don't have the main light on.
It feels like an interrogation with that light on. It feels a bit serious, a bit stark and clinical and horrible.
So
you have to have it in the classes.
So I have fairy lights around, and then I've also got this other light that emits light across the room. I've got a little remote, and I can change the colour depending how I'm feeling. But it is that sense of kind of, it's not quite like you're in the room, but do you know what I mean? You feel cozy, you feel comfy. It's a nice place to work. It's a welcoming place. I'm sure you're the same as me, that when people probably come for a meeting, I offer a cup of tea. It's kind of like, what would I like? What would I, you know, and we spend so much time at work and at school, you know, that actually we want it to feel welcoming for everyone. So, you know, I have to say, maybe the polystyrene tiles on the ceiling, you know, but you're disguising them.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much we can do about the polystyrene. I can't even say polystyrene ceilings. Yeah. Although we did get rid of it in our coffee shop. We did expose the ceiling and things like that. But that's a bigger job than we can do over here.
Never say never.
True, Jenny. True.
Never say never.
Wise words. So, wow, I'm learning so much in this podcast.
Me too.
The viewers can't see that we had intense eye contact there. You know, is he being clever or what? I'm being flippant, Ginny. It's Friday afternoon, isn't it?
It is. It's a rainy Friday afternoon. So, you know, but right. So how do we know each other?
Was it Tinder? No, that's not appropriate. We can edit that bit out, Ginny. We can edit that bit out. Tony, wasn't it? Didn't we meet in custody? I think you'd be. I think you had been shoplifting or something, and this is not appropriate. We'll get rid of all. You're going to leave all these bits in, aren't you,
I will.
Ginny?
I will.
Seriously, man, don't.
I
Just
have to
let's
tell
get rid
you,
of it. Promise me.
y-
What? What do you need to tell us, Ginny?
years ago, I did inadvertently take some grapes from a well-known supermarket. I put them in a bag, and I put the bag on my arm. I don't know why, and then I realised I hadn't paid for them. So mm. But maybe we didn't meet either of those really.
No, let's just imagine that we didn't have that weird conversation. We both represent independent thinking, don't we? That is. I was thinking, have we met before that? But I am right in thinking that we met at the big day out, the BW Mat Fest
Yes.
at Glastonbury, and if I remember rightly, I was buzzing because you could see the Glastonbury fence from the window. I mean, I've
It was
never been in, but I was excited enough to. It was epic. It was huge.
was amazing, and it was like the week before Glastonbury, but it was like our Glastonbury. It was like Edu Glastonbury for us, wasn't it? It was, and
It was cool. Yeah,
it
I mean,
was cool.
it was something on a very different level.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
It,
Fair play to
yeah,
everybody involved.
yeah, because we were presenting in basically sheep sheds. The audience was sitting on bales. It was just.
I remember. I mean, you'd made a bit more of an effort with your appearance. I thought I'd keep it real and go on with my shirt, my shirt sleeves rolled up and my shorts. And I'm still getting counselling now for, the fact that I was called Sports Day all day long, because I looked like I was going to a sports day. Troubled me, Ginny. Independent thinking, these amazing people, and he's me getting nicknamed New Boy Sports Day.
Were you Sports Day or
I'd rather
Sports
like Maverick.
Dave? Were you Sports Dave?
No, I think it was just Sports Day, wasn't it? They didn't even have that much respect for me, Ginny.
Oh.
Sports Day. But David works very well. You have such a way with words. Yeah, it was good. That it was epic. It was amazing. And I was dead excited to be representing independent thinking because they are cool. I've always loved independent thinking.
Just amazing people. And actually being in I'm going to call it the green room. It wasn't really a green room, was it? But being in that room with all of the independent thinking associates was phenomenal. Just having those conversations.
It was completely overwhelming. To be around people that I've watched speak and followed on Twitter and admired from afar to suddenly being amongst that. For somebody quite confident, I was a bit scared, really. New kid on the block, and I really appreciate you and everybody else looking after me. But I do love Ian and independent thinking. This isn't a shameless plug for him, but I do love Ian and Dave and what they're all about.
Yeah. And I think what I love the tagline that there is another way, isn't it? There is another way, and
Totally agree.
And the voices of, this is such a plug for independent thinking, but the voices of independent thinking, which Sarah Mosley is also an associate of, the wonderful Sarah. It's I love listening to them because you see things through a different lens, and I always go, I hadn't thought about that, but actually I'm going to internalize that, and I might do it that way as a result of hearing somebody else. And it's from the heart, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, when you say that there's another way, I think we're both working skills. That's what we're clinging on to at the minute. There is another way, but there has to be another way. That there must be a different way of doing things, because at the minute, we've both been in education long, 15 years of headship. It is tough at the minute, for anybody working in schools at any level, primary or secondary. I think things are tough. And my theory at the minute is there is another way, but whatever it is, doesn't really exist at the minute. We've got to be challenging thinking, being a bit disruptive, experiment, bit of playful curiosity, because we're living in different world, different times. And when I meet up with independent thinking people, I get involved in them. It's just nice to have your thinking challenged.
Yes.
Bit scary at times, but there's got to be another way, Ginny. That's what I'm hanging on to at the minute.
And the thing I'm hanging on to at the moment is I don't know about you. I think a lot of people are asking permission for things. I feel sometimes like I'm a permission giver, whereas actually it's like you don't need to ask my permission to do that. What you're suggesting is from the gut, it's common sense, and it's the right thing to do at this moment. But I don't know if you're finding that, well, in your school, it might be different. I don't know. I don't know. Do people ask permission or
Um, I think generally we're quite a compliant profession in many ways. You
no?
know, we've done quite a lot of work with with a performance psychologist, and we've done our profiles and everything. And generally, we're all very empathic, kind, caring, lovely people, which is absolutely what you would want for your kids. But maybe we just need to be a little bit more disruptive, a little bit more assertive, challenge things a little bit more. I often think that when COVID kicked in and all of a sudden we're having to reinvent how we do things, in some ways, I appreciate it was a really tough time, but people didn't need to ask permission to be innovative and do things differently. We forgot about Ofsted. And in many ways, we thrived. We did the things that were really important. We didn't have to ask for permission. And I kind of wish we could have clung on to a little bit more of that. I remember us all saying, well, we'll do things differently when we come through the other side. And I think the sad reality is that we've continued doing what we did then. It didn't really work then. It really doesn't work now. That was wise, wasn't it? Wise words
And I,
there.
I would agree. I think we had COVID and people were like, we will carry on in this way. And then we went back onto the original track pathway. We kind of
Yep.
went on a different pathway and then and reverted back. I would completely agree. No, I would completely agree. Let's get on to something lighter then. Tell me what your wow moment has been for this week or recently. Tell me something wowy. I mean, your life is wowy because you do so many wowy things, but
It's not. I just shout about the things that are wow. Do you know what? There was one this morning, and I've noticed it a couple of times this week. One of our children wasn't great for, well, attendance was really poor last year, um, and the they I won't say the boy or girl. They were really struggling with things. Things were going on at home and whatever, and all of a sudden, the child. I'm so conscious of like not giving any details away, but that child is a very, very, very different child, and we all knew it could happen. But the reality is, we put all this time and effort in with the kids, and often it needs a lot more than we can give. And they come in bouncing in. They got an award earlier on in assembly, and this new responsibility. And oh, come on, I actually feel a bit more. It's just amazing, that their face is lighting up, and it will be one of those things where you think, God, you know what? The amount of times we tried to turn things around for these kids, and this one, I think we've turned around in 4 or 5 weeks, and I think it will last. And it doesn't happen, to that level, that level of challenge to be that, they're helping, they're just different, and it's a really lovely feeling, and they know that they're thriving, they know that they've changed, they know that they've taken responsibility. And I can only think of it, one or two of the kids where it's happened on the level that it has with this child. It's honestly, it's a really amazing feeling. I can't take much responsibility for it. It's our nurture team and the other staff, but yeah, it's a good one, that one. Genuinely, it's amazing.
and it gets you, doesn't it, in your feels, doesn't it? And you're thinking, actually,
Yeah, of course
and
it
it's
does.
that noticing, isn't it, as well? The child's been noticed. Somebody, I'm presuming, has given that time. They've understood them, where that child is at. They've kind of unpicked them in an empathetic way. And all of that time has paid off because this child is, well,
Mm,
it's all about, isn't it, feeling safe, secure, that they've got people they trust.
absolutely.
And that's all kind of, it's like I don't know, a present with a bow on the top. Do you know what I mean? It's all come together, but that is from noticing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's there've been some really challenging moments where the children, the child has kicked back and pushed things and whatever, but just to have spent so much time out, a nurture staff keeping going and doing all of these things, it's just, yeah, That's definitely
Oh.
that's my easy wow moment this week. An easy one, that one.
Well, it's not I mean, is it
Sorry,
an
no,
easy
easy to pick out. You think
Oh, yeah.
of a full week. In a full week, there's loads of things. I think that, I think school's in a really good place. It's tough. We've got 60% free school meals, nearly 30% SEN. It's tough.
Mm.
It's been a brilliant start, but in terms of a moment, I just don't think you get a moment that is so, this child is standing out for all the right reasons when they used to stand out for the wrong ones. It's just, it's what we've got
And
the job for, isn't it?
yeah, and do you know what I love? When we have children who are finding school quite challenging, I love it when, and I had one of these this week when, a member of staff was championing that child and bigging them up and go, "Hey, look, so and so's doing this with me, and they're really helping me." And I could see the child just, getting a little bit taller and going, and that positivity, that positive language, that modeling of the positive, positiveness is it's all internalized, isn't it? Everything we do within education, children absorb, and we have to be so mindful of that, don't we? That everybody has to be having that, well, it's a continuity, but also that positivity towards that child because they do internalize it, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree.
Yeah. I love that. I love that the wow moment is about a child. I think, like you say, that absolutely sums it up. So, a song, okay? If special needs were a song, what song would you choose and why would you choose it?
Right, I want to give you something like really clever, but like it's like choosing a pub quiz team name. I'm rubbish at that kind of thing. Um, do you know? Do you know what I mean? Like my fantasy league team is called Team Dave. It's totally unimaginative. I'd have to go with ABBA, Money, 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 and I felt really sad. But
Oh,
when it comes down to it, I would go. It's all about the money and the lack of it, and how much we need to give our kids what they need. And it really bothers me that we can see it. We know the impact that it has on that child and that family and the rest of the class and the staff.
oh.
We just need more money and crazy amounts of it. So
And
it's
I
that.
think it's
Did you want
very
something more uplifting?
no, because
But
I
I'm,
think
I'm
it's
being
very
honest.
no,
That's very much on my mind at the minute.
I think it's very grounding. I think it's very sobering, and I think it's very realistic because as a Senko, I can so relate to this that, and other Senkos will be able to, that the amount of time we spend filling in paperwork against an EHCP to do a cost of provision map to say how much this will cost in real terms and how often not computer said no. And you're like, but this is how much it is going to cost. This is an actual. This is an actual for this child in this setting. In order that the child can thrive and that they have their that they have their place within the class, that we can provide everything that they need alongside their peers, and then it gets thrown back, or just don't get a reply. You're like, I've sent this whole costed provision for you to show what is required, and you're like, I'm sorry, the email hasn't bounced back. Just nobody's replied, and
I mean,
you've really hit a nerve
yeah.
for me as well.
I think in fairness, it's not. We're in Lancashire. It's not an issue with Lancashire at all. I'm not just suddenly
Oh,
backtracking. It's just the level of need that you see in school, and what that child needs, or provision out there that everywhere's full. We both get out and
yes.
about quite a bit. You speak to people across the country. Everybody is saying exactly the same,
Mm,
whether it's the impact of COVID, whether it's devices and, the on-demand nature of the world that we live in. Is it the stress and, the worry of poverty and cost of living and everything being tight, the general feistiness within the,
mm,
is just the money that you would need to give the child in school the extra support, open up the SEN, more SEN school, create the places, get the
yes.
access to the ed So it's just,
Yeah.
unfortunately, I found myself thinking that it is all about money at the minute.
And it is. And I'm sure you would agree, there has been a huge shift in my career for how much money is, it is available. But I think it's a very honest answer. I think it's a very honest answer, and I think we can all relate to it. So it's a good answer. You've done well, Dave.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I'll take
yeah.
that. I'll take it.
I'll take that begrudgingly as you sit there with your fairy lights behind you, sparkling. So, what about, have we got a recommendation of a book for us, Dave? It can be educational, not educational, something that you think, do you know what? People need to know about this book.
I couldn't decide whether it's a really obvious choice, but I'm going to go for Paul Dick's When the Adults when the Adults Change.
Yes.
And it just, all about the relational approach. And I think I had it in me, like I'd like to think most teachers do, but it just made me think about, the consistency in our relationships between adults and the children, adults and adults. But things like, as head teacher, you'd often get children brought to you, they need a bit of a telling off, and I'd shout at them. And looking back, I can't think of a time that it ever worked. And I'm kind of just putting it out there that I'm not proud of it, but I reckon most of us done it at times. It just doesn't get us anywhere. And I think I just remember reading it. It's a pretty easy read, pretty quick read, but I remember having it quite a profound impact on me. And I bought every member of staff one, TAs and teachers, and they all had to read it. And, we've done quite a lot of work based on that. And I think when I talk about it being the best start back in 10 years, I do think part of that is the relational approach that we've introduced in school. That was my easy choice, to be honest, in terms of school.
It's the book, you read it and you go, oh yeah, why didn't I do that before? Isn't it? It is that,
Yeah.
And that,
I think it just brings a bit of clarity to your thinking. It provokes a bit of thinking.
And I think this idea of relational, relational connections is so important, because when I started teaching, I remember if a child, in inverted commas, misbehaved in the classroom, they were sent out and they had to, looking back on it, Dave, I don't know what this was all about, then they had to sit outside either the head teacher's office or the staff room. And actually, thinking about it, everyone would go past Brian or Bethany and say, why are you out here? And actually they did get that connection, because everyone was having a chat with them as they went past. But there was also this, you've got to go to the head, and they were passed to the head. Whereas this idea of it being that the class teacher has that conversation with the child and they reconnect and they understand one another as well, is so important, isn't it? That the class teacher and the teacher keep that relationship, and when it goes a bit kind of awry, that they can build it back up again.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there was, we don't, this being sent to someone, is not actually supporting the relationship in the classroom. It's kind of dividing, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just now when you see the amount of work that we've done on it to see it playing out in school, just interesting. I thought about that at a time where there's lots of conversations about silent corridors and, that kind of thing. I think there's an answer that's somewhere in between, yeah. I think it just provokes a lot of thinking.
Yes. And I think anything that provokes our thinking is worth giving our time to, isn't it? It's just always
Absolutely.
thinking there is
100%.
another way.
Totally.
And I think also consistency. Paul Dix does also talk about the consistency. When we have consistency, that gives children a feeling of safety, doesn't it? And trust is when we have the inconsistency that things become very, very confusing for children.
I think the consistency is essential, and you realize that, staff can spend such a long time building up that relationship, that trust, and, you know, and then all of a sudden it just goes wrong in that one moment of stress or pressure and a snap or a shout or something like that. Um, yeah, honestly, it's been really profound in school.
That is fab to hear. Before we finish, please tell me about your community calf, because I remember when we were at the big day out, you were telling me about it and you really kind of dumbed it down. I was like, no, 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 no. I please just tell me about how that we're talking about. There is a different way, doing things differently, thinking
Yeah,
big.
it's funny. Like, it's not that like I do it down. It's just you don't want to be that person. Like, yeah, we've done this and we've done that, because that's not the case. Um, but we had a children's centre at the back of school. It wasn't being used a huge amount of time, and we were really lucky. We managed to find funding, and we've converted it into like a family centre, family club. Groups will, women's aid work from, base themselves there. We have bingo sessions for the community. We have pensioners coming in after the swimming. Professionals will meet and have meetings there. Lots of those water cooler moments that we don't seem to have so much these days, where people just happen to cross paths and have conversations. We can do things for the kids. We've started having the kids working in there, doing some voluntary work. Um, you know, making stuff to sell. We're only a year and a half in, and in many ways it's still very early doors. But it's just exciting that it goes back to the very beginning. There is a different way, and that's what we're just trying to figure out. What do we need to do differently to answer lots of the wars that our country seems to have at the minute?
Mm. I think the water cooler moment, this idea of connection, about people meeting up. I read in a book somewhere that like London has got the most population per square meter that it has ever had, and yet there is the least social interaction ever. And I just
Hmm.
love the fact that you are providing this, and it's for the community and it's for people to get together, which we need that, I think, as human beings. And I just love your enthusiasm for it. And you say we were lucky. You weren't lucky, because you and your team have made this happen, by kind of identifying a space, identifying a need. And then what I love, Dave, is that it seems everybody from the community wants to come into your school, and that's what schools should be. They should be a place where people
Absolutely.
want to join together, and where they want to kind of share the space. It's like one of my schools, they go to the care home with the children. This idea of mixing, the different demographics, I think it's quite inspiring, really. So,
Thank you. So, thank you.
well, no, because
It's belonging.
we
It's
need
belonging,
more
isn't it?
belong. It is.
We
Yeah.
we all spend way too much time on our phones with our followers, our friends, the WhatsApp groups and things like that. We've lost that sense of belonging. As a family, you're all watching different stuff at different times. You can't even go to the staff room and talk about what's going on in blue lights, because everyone's on different episodes. That's why I think it's really special when you got World Cups going on and things like that. We've finally all got something that we can talk
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
So yes, you got those big things, but part of it is just, stuff for staff to come together, parents to come together, the
Mm,
kids to come together. Belonging, I think, it's the secret cheap ingredient.
yeah. And in the staff rooms, in the staff rooms where I work, we now have a dining table in each one. I went on Facebook Marketplace and bought every staff room a round table with the dining chairs, because someone said to me, "We're fine having our lunch and our knee." And I was like, "No, fine isn't good enough. Fine isn't good enough." And I am so with you about this. When you go into the staff room, you say, "Oh, anyone watch Traitors?" Whatever. We are connecting as humans. We are not just talking about, for example, Read, Write, Ink or whatever. We are actually having those conversations to connect as individuals as well as educators. So no, I just think we need to do this everywhere, Dave. Let's you know, let's start, you know, I don't know, some kind of a, I don't know, not quite a revolution, but you know, it's education is tough at the moment. Education is tough, and just these things where we can all be ourselves. I did actually at that big day out, I was talking to TAs and I said, tell me something positive in your day. And they said, in our staff room, there's a yum yum box and it has different things in that we can snack on. And it has pot noodles in. So we always know if we haven't had a chance to bring our lunch, there's always a pot noodle there. And I thought they're not big things, are they, Dave? But they make a difference, and they make people feel valued, and they make people feel like they belong.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we've ended on a right. What you know, what can we do to, you know, make kind of education more kind of starry light for the amazing people who we work with.
Yeah, and the opportunities are there, but it's really hard when you're tired, you're stressed, you're busy, you got so much going on. You know, there are lots of opportunities for coming together, belonging, making a difference, just doing nice things for our kids, nice things for our parents that, you know, you could argue it's not going to necessarily improve your SATs results, but over time, all those little things, those positive intentions make such a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. 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 Well, thank you so much for letting us share your space and your sparkly lights with us. That's what we need. We need more little sparkly lights. What are they called? Sparkly lights. What do I
Maybe
mean?
that's all we need to hang from the lamppost. Sparkly lights, festoon lighting everywhere.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm with it. I'm with it. We'll just, yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it. My people can speak to your people, and we'll sort it.
Yeah, get them to fax me.
Fax you. I was listening to something.
I'll go and turn the machine on.
I was listening to something today about someone was showing their child how an old phone worked, and the child was like, "Oh, what is this craziness?" And I thought that was my happy childhood. That was. There's that song and that YouTube clip. Is it I never had an iPad or we never had an iPad? And I love watching that because that was my childhood, and I was quite happy with, you know, Swap Shop, Whack-A-Day, you know, kind of what I called a normal phone, you know, an old phone. And I think just giving these these chances for connection, practically doing things, I think we can get on the treadmill of education and of life. So yeah, we'll sort it, Dave, you and I.
Let's crack on.
Let's crack on. I think we'll end it with that. Come on, let's crack on.
Let's crack on.
All right then. Thank you, Dave. You're a superstar.
No problem. I better go. Thanks, Ginny.
All right. Bye.
See you later.
Thanks for joining us this time on Catching Up with Sarah and Ginny.
Always a pleasure and never a chore.